We're live, and we can't move a lot.
Hey.
Because we're all here. I don't know what happened. What happened, guys? What's going down?
Pandemic.
This is like the 5th time we've... Well, not counting the Saturdays. We've done a couple on the Saturday. We've had lots. We're here. How's it going? Hope you're well. I'm glad you guys are here to say hello. I know that we have a couple of people watching already because we have some diehard people that like to hang out with us. And they, of course, are, just doing stuff. Because that's how life works. So, boys, how you doing and what are you drinking?
Beer time.
Start with Dave since... Whoa, Dave's like, yeah, man!
Yeah,
manly pull there.
I'm actually, this is Liquid Hippie, bitches.
Liquid Hippie. Actually, you've had that.
What is it?
You've had that before, haven't you?
Oh, believe it or not, Locke recognizes because he's the man that bought this when he was here.
Oh.
That's how long it's been sitting in my fridge. I thought, hey, I got this here. It was tasty. Let's do this.
So what is it, Dave?
Actually, that is a valid question, Alan.
I have no idea. It looks like beer.
You might say I'm fucking clueless because this thing says not at all what it actually is.
Well, who brews it?
So it could actually be Liquid Hippies in here. Who knows?
It's made from real hippies.
Real organically raised hippies. This is Bad Dog.
Okay.
Bad Dog Brewing, as in you punish the dog?
As in you punish the dog. Well, it's, I guess, maybe.
Just saying.
If you like bad dogs or not. They are apparently from Souk.
Yes.
So, more than that, this beer is... What the hell? I can't even...
Well, I was just wondering if it maybe has, like, pod in it or something.
No, it's not a... You mean like a nitro?
Yeah.
Yeah, non-nitro. Liquid Hippie has a bit of haze and the zing of mango and hibiscus flower, unfiltered and unpasteurized. It's actually quite tasty. I enjoyed it. If I remember correctly, Locke, you thought this was fairly tasty.
Yeah. Got kind of a... Yeah, the floral notes come out in it a bit, if I recall.
And it is, not sure if that's coming through much, but it's very definitely hazy.
It looks like it.
Is it just me, or does it have a reddish tinge to it?
That's more my camera. It's actually, I can't. There, that's me.
Oh, there we go. All right, that's okay,
light.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It
Locke,
is nice.
what are you drinking?
So I am still on the Flying Monkey Juicy Ass IPA.
Juicy Ass IPA. Now, I think that's what you had last week. But is this from your delivery?
It is from my delivery. So
You got it.
I tried to do another delivery, and the options I had last time, which were limited, are now more limited. So, yeah, but fingers crossed. I think I have some strong Belgian ale on the way, so we will see.
Nice.
What about you, Alan? What are you drinking?
Well, this is a beer that I picked up before the pandemic happened. I had intended for us to do it on the show where we'd all have it. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, so I'm just going to have it tonight. It is from Vancouver Island Brewing. It is their title series Cherry Cola Marzen.
Ooh.
Cherry Cola.
Gotta say, that sounds damn tasty.
Now, I've just opened it up. I've just had my very first sip. There isn't much in the way of odor, so it's either there isn't much odor in it, or I have COVID-19. I'm don't know which. Now I'm a little bit concerned suddenly. Well, I smell nothing. As far as taste goes, it's you can taste the cherry, but it's really light. The Marzen is very light flavored. It's I don't want to say it tastes watered down, but it tastes kind of watered down. But a little bit from the can here. Interestingly, it's a cherry cola Marzen. There is absolutely no cola in this. It is made from water, barley, wheat, hops, cherry concentrate, yeast, and natural flavor. Inspired by a classic cherry soda, this full-bodied German-style Marzen is rich and malty, with aromas of dark fruit and caramel. Reminisce about the 90s, with a Chica cherry cola in hand and a friend by your side. I don't know really if it's
taste at all like cherry cola.
No, not really.
Yeah, all right.
No,
there's hints of cherry in it, which is good. It says it's full body, all that. I don't know. I'm not detecting that myself. This beer gets a bit of a pass from me. I would not buy this again.
Okay. Well, to finish off the quadruple people here, the beer I have is, of course, Red Truck Brewery. And it's their pineapple Hefeweizen. So it tastes like pineapple. It's a light beer. I don't know if you can see it, but the color is quite light.
Oh, yeah.
It's unfiltered. It does have, from time to time, you find little tiny flecks of what I assume is pineapple. It could be, I don't know, hair or dead skin or something. But overall, it's a beer that I've had quite often since they started making it last year. So once in a while, especially when it's warm. Sort of a warm weather beer.
What percentage does it roll in at?
I think it only rocks in at around 4.5, but let me confirm that. It is unfiltered and it is somewhere. I think it would be on the can.
4.5 would be what you would expect for something like that, though.
Yeah, that's
4.5, 4.5, yeah. Oh wait, oh there it is. It's very light. 4.75 according to what it says.
Okay. Yeah. That's
So I
in
mean,
range.
I think it works. I like it. It's not bad. It was the next can of the mixer pack that we have been slowly going through. So
Does it taste more like? Does it taste more like a sort of like your garden variety Hefeweizen, or does it taste like a Hoegaarden or something, or is it really pineapple?
It's definitely sweeter. I mean, it has a hint of pineapple, not a lot, but enough that you know that it's not a lie. Like, we made it out of pineapple, and they really ground up, dogs and threw it in or something. So, it's sweeter than what I would expect for a Hefeweizen. So, it's something that in theory, I get it again. And I probably will get it again because, there are days during the pandemic where it's like I walked over to Legacy Liquor today and they had a lineup and it was like, I'm not going to wait. So,
yeah.
And I walk across the street and, I stumble into the door and there's like the sign on the door saying 2 people only, a big sneeze guard in front of the thing, and but overall, I will suffer until we are allowed to go and do things again. So how was your pandemic week? What is anything exciting going on for anybody?
My excitement was going to Costco last night, then waiting to get into the store for like an hour.
How long did it take?
It was probably about an hour to get in.
Jeez.
Cool.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Now, but aren't you a healthcare worker?
Technically.
Oh, no?
You could make the argument that yes, but I am not I'm not public facing.
Right.
Shall we say? So no physical contact.
Okay. Because at Costco, if you're a healthcare worker and you show your ID badge, you get to skip the line.
Whoa!
And go right in.
I had heard that. My guess is you're going to show your VHA badge.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, which I do not have. I'm not a VHA employee.
Well, actually, I'm not with VHA. I'm with Providence Healthcare, which is based in Vancouver. And that allows a pass as well.
Oh, really? Sweet. So do you, Alan, do you actually use Costco? Do you guys have a membership?
We do. We have not been to Costco for this. I actually haven't tried it personally, but I have coworkers who have done it and they've bypassed the line.
Yeah. I think I saw one dude that was able to bypass the line last night.
Yeah, everybody gave him the stink eye, probably.
No, I think people just assumed that the dude was, he had reasons.
Yeah, reasons.
People,
reasons.
It was kind of cool. People were pretty chill about it.
Because if it was me and I'm skipping the line, I'd be like, fuck all you guys. Yeah. I would be like rubbing it in
I
there.
could totally see that. Yeah. No, you know what the worst thing about it is the fact that you can't just fucking walk around the store. You've got fucking arrows, and you have to follow the arrows. However, as usual, there were some rebels that determined that arrows weren't for them, so they were going completely against the traffic.
Yes.
But, yeah.
You're always going to have that small portion of the population, people that just... They reach their breaking point, which is a very low breaking point to hit, and they've... I mean, look, it's happening in the States right now. I mean, maybe it's happening here, I just haven't noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you manage it?
Well, yesterday, I think it was. Yeah, yesterday. So there's a Tim Hortons in the Jubilee Hospital where I work. And I work in the cancer clinic, which is a separate building across the campus. And so I sometimes we'll go over to Tim Hortons for coffee. So I went over there, and the lineup at the Tim Hortons was very long. And of course, you have to leave 6 feet between everybody in the line. So it was a spilling outside of the Tim Hortons and into the lobby of the hospital. And I happened to be standing right next to the nurse that was talking to everybody and questioning everybody that comes in to the lobby. It's like, do you have any symptoms? Have you been traveling and blah, blah, blah. Amazing the amount of crap this nurse had to put up with from people questioning why they were being questioned at all. There was a guy that came in. He's like, I was just here an hour and a half ago, and I already answered these questions. Well, I'm sorry. You have to answer them again. Yeah, okay, fine. So she's asking a question. No.
So full attitude.
Oh, total attitude.
Yeah, dude, stay home.
Well, there are some. I wish there were rules where you could tell people, like, I'm sorry, but you're irritable and you're going to be a dick to people outside, so stay inside, please.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has a bad day, but if you're outside protesting that you can't go and get your hair done, there are so many things that I run across being someone who works on the internet. You see all kinds of videos right now of people getting arrested at like play dates. Did
you see the video of the woman supposedly in Jacksonville, Florida, she's like, it's like total close up of her face. She's got blonde hair, and she's like, "Hey y'all, they shouldn't be closing the beaches in Jacksonville because we don't drink Corona beer. We drink some other beer, some light beer thing. So we drink the light beer. So we're not going to get the coronavirus here. We also, the water is salt, and salt kills viruses. So we're all in the salt water, and we're not drinking the Corona beer, so we're all safe."
That has got to be a joke.
I would.
I want to believe it's a joke, but there's a part of me is like, no, it's not.
When you know, I suspect that they were not burdened with an overabundance of schooling, which sadly is a thing in a lot of, not just in the States, but in a lot of places, actually pretty much everywhere. I mean, you look at remember the videos a few like on the news about, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, all these spring breakers who were still going down to the beaches and stuff.
Yeah.
If you read some of the follow-up stuff of the people that were interviewed, like 75% of them had all contracted the COVID virus at some point. Like right after that.
What happened to the other 25%?
I'm assuming they just died outright. It's like, hey, I was on spring break. Ah! But yeah, I mean, it's really sad that you see that kind of stuff and that stuff exists. But at the same time, I have to say that, you know, people reach the point where they've had enough, and unfortunately, we're seeing it more often because we don't necessarily as it's unprecedented is the word getting thrown around all the time, but yeah, it is. And so you know, we're going to see more crazy people go crazy.
Well, the thing is, it's not unprecedented. It's unprecedented in our time.
No, this is true. I'm talking about unprecedented for post-industrial revolution people. You know, we've had things like the flu, Spanish flu, and all that kind of stuff, but we weren't alive then. So, in our collective memory, no one knows anything. No one knows the realities of what actually went on. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, God, it's worse than that, though, isn't it? You know, like I was listening to somebody on the news today talking about, you know, well, when it, you know, ultimately, you know, when is it going to go back to normal? And it's sort of like normal, right? Back to normal. What in the last century that's gone on has been normal exactly? We went from, you know, 1 billion people to 8 billion people. We have gone from a society in which people rode horses to get around to one where we're, you know, fighting over electric cars. You know, we spy on each other with multi-copter drones for kicks when we're not, you know, spamming each other with videos of us opening boxes. Like, which part about normal? What normal are we going back to here exactly?
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, I remember a while back talking to one of my parents saying, you know, I had read something and I forgot what it was, but I was commenting about world population, and my parents were like, well, what do you mean? Like, what exactly are you referring? Like, what do you, whatever the hell I was making a point about. But the part that I do remember is that, well, the reality is that we have, in this day and age, we are, you know, closing in very fast at 8 billion. And when I was born, there was less than 4. So, you know, we had 3.8 billion in 1973, and by 74 we went over 4 kind of thing. So yeah, it's just one of those weird things that you don't have a real concept of what really has changed and how the stresses of population growth are impacting the world and all this kind of stuff. So yeah. I mean, there is some day in the future that we'll hit about 12, and I really hope there's a spacecraft over top in orbit saying, you know, oh look, 12 billion people, all Borg. So, you know, we won't have to worry about world population at that point, because we don't need, when you're a Borg, you don't need oxygen. You just have to run around in, what was it, fluorine and something else? I've forgotten what, but...
Yeah.
What are we going to do about the temperature? If we're all Borg, what are we going to do about the temperature? 39.2 degrees.
That's right. We'll be able to survive in 39.2 degrees quite comfortably, without breaking a sweat. So, our hive mind will allow us to control our temperature and keep it down, and we'll probably flutter around like bumblebees trying to cool off a hive. So, it's a thing. Going from COVID, the world population, to a Borg takeover of the human race.
So speaking of dumb Americans, so I was reintroduced to this audio recording that I heard a while back. I don't know if we've ever talked about it here, but who cares? We can talk about it again. Okay. There was this woman somewhere down in the States, maybe in Minnesota or something, who phoned a radio station to complain that the deer that they wanted that the deer were not using the deer crossing that we had set up for. So like there were signs on the side of the highway that said deer crossing, and to warn drivers, but she thought that was sort of like a designated path for deer to cross the highway, and that they would consciously go to where the sign is to cross the highway. And when they weren't doing that, she thought that the highways department should move the sign to another place. Comments. Commentary.
Well,
speak.
Clearly, their deer was, not very articulate, because obviously the deer didn't understand where they were supposed to cross. So I don't know.
I suspect that deer didn't have an overabundance of schooling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really kind of sad where when signage fails to warn wildlife of, hunters or cliff or I don't know, traffic, it's sad that they don't pay attention. You really think that they would be able to go, oh hey, we shouldn't go there. That's a bad place. Like I'll never forget the signage that really made me understand the danger I was getting into, which was going to Mount Baker to go stay at a timeshare there. In the summer, it's very beautiful there, and driving along the highway, getting to where we need to be, and then suddenly passing a sign that says, by order of county sheriff, no shooting. And of course, there were bullet holes in the sign. So this goes to show you that you just can't. You can't. You just can't. You can't even. You just can't even. You just want to look a wild, animal in the eye and be like, dude, what the hell? But like I remember just seeing a snippet on some news article the other day of a moose running full tilt through like 5 feet of snow and not really breaking a sweat, or at least not that anyone knew he was breaking a sweat, but it was quite impressive to see. But I suspect that somewhere in that snow you're going to find some small cliff or hillside you can tumble down. You really ought to put up signs around it.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, gentlemen, though. In terms of the Animalia, can we make a distinction between those found in the good old US of A and those found around the rest of the world?
A distinction in what way?
In terms of whether or not they follow the signage that's been given to them to indicate, safe passage and such.
Are we talking distinction or extinction? Well, you do recall that at one point bald eagles were extinct in the United States, and then their population was restored because in Goldstream Park on Vancouver Island, we closed off a section of the park, and all of a sudden they had somewhere to breed again.
Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I'm feeling very stupid now.
I have a feeling, Shane, you don't get much schooling.
I don't have an overabundance of schooling. And I suppose that I really should stop and think about how
maybe we should go. I'm going to try and recreate the view from the. I don't know what my framing is, but
you're really good.
I think we should go to Jacksonville, where we won't get the coronavirus because they drink their Miller Lite beer and they spend all day long in the salt water. Sorry.
Locke is
I hope
stunned.
that woman doesn't watch.
What I want to know is what is the government of Canada going to do about all the poor? The other side of the educational, all poor, university students in Canada who have finished their degrees in comparative gender studies and now won't be able to get jobs because of the COVID virus.
Yeah. No, seriously, that is a serious.
They're going to have to make new jobs for all.
Well, and listen, I graduated from university right at the in 2008 with the economic crisis. So I didn't get a job after I graduated either. And I still didn't get a job in the field that I had spent years training in. I'm using it here for this, but I'm not making any money off of it.
We don't make money off of this.
Sponsors. Sponsor us. Really, we'll take anybody.
We'll start a Patreon at 10 cents. We'll run it like a stock market. Would you like to short the Crafty Boys? We totally could do that. What do you guys make? What makes it so that you should be on the TSX? Our sex appeal. Okay, you're in. Especially that short blonde kid. What's his name? Is he one of your? Is he like your son or something? Yeah, that's my kid. Thanks, Dave. Making me feel young. Locke is the patriarch. Now, boys! I have brought you beer and women. I've totally lost track of what the hell we were even trying to talk about. So let's pick a new topic. Let's go, somebody.
Dune,
the remake of Dune.
Waiting for the opening.
Yeah, they are.
You haven't heard about this, Locke?
I will read it out to you because there is some information in here that you'll probably like. It's coming. Well, I suspect this film is probably delayed at this point because I think it was scheduled. Actually, no. Look, no, the original schedule, December 18th of this year, assuming that date sticks, which probably by that point one would hope. It's being directed by Denis, and I'll never pronounce his last name properly, but Villeneuve. It's French. He's from Quebec. Of course, if you have not heard of him, he has done films such as, a little old film called Blade Runner 2049. He also did Arrival, Sicario. He also did a film called Polytechnique, which I think is that the film that I saw about the Polytechnique massacre back in the 90s. But essentially, so this is a film that is starring Josh Brolin, Dave Bautista from Marvel film fame, a bunch of other actors you've probably heard of. It's Timothy something, which I cannot remember the name. But anyway, essentially, it's being turned into a film again. And it should be very interesting because they're trying to remain as very loyal to the book, yeah. So to be honest, this would be a very good. Well, of course they're making their own stuff, but the big thing is that I would like to watch this film only after watching Jodorowsky's Dune. I'm pronouncing his name wrong as well, but also Lynch's Dune. Watch them all in a row in one day, and be able to have that ingrained in your mind to really make connections between what's great about some things, what's great about other things, what's not so great maybe. So yeah. Now it's supposed to be. I read this a little while ago. I don't know how true this is, but it's apparently it's going to be a film, but they're hoping to do a series as well on HBO or Sci-Fi, whatever one of those channels that would fit. So that would be cool. I don't know if that's dependent upon how well the movie does itself, because doing something with Dune right now, I think, is kind of risque, because it's not really been touched. And they did that Children of Dune thing a little while ago, like 5-6 years ago, which I think it was a series on television. I don't remember. It was like a limited series, so it was only a certain fixed amount of time. So anyway, I don't know. There
are some camps that consider now. Is he still with us? Frank Herbert, is he still around?
Herbert, I don't know.
Because rumor has it, at least in some camps, Frankie doesn't like people messing with his stuff.
I don't know if he is. I think he's. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up.
He'd be old if he's still around, but
nope, he's been dead for a while. He died in 86.
86. Okay.
He was only 65 at the time. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those books that has such it's like Lord of the Rings. It has a cult following to such a degree that to piss off the fans is a risky move. I mean, isn't Dune one of the series that's been continued by another author that was authorized by the estate? So like what's his face who did the Bourne series? But that series is continued by another author. But was the estate actually said, hey, we want to continue the series. Of course, the author is passed on, but we still want to have more books made. So, so there's like 5 or 6 additional Bourne books. I don't know exactly what they're about, but so yeah, I mean, it's even it's being done to Pratchett. Pratchett's series is continuing, or has continued, with apparently some very selected authors. That they're trying to write in his style, based on, I gather, ideas for books that he'd written notes for. So yeah, I mean, it frightens me, but at the same time, I would like to see it, and just to see how successful it is, because Pratchett is one of those authors that has a very particular voice, right? He's got a very specific way of writing, and he's like Adam. He's like Douglas Adams, right?
Yeah.
He had a very particular style that they became known for. And didn't Douglas Adams just have a book, not just recently, but like 10 years ago?
Yeah. So a book came out that was essentially a melange of bits and odds and ends that I gather were in his desk drawer when he died. I wouldn't call it a coherent piece of work or anything, but it was interesting to read.
Well, the pirate book by Michael Crichton called something. Hang on.
That's a weird name for a pirate book.
I read the thing. It was quite good. I enjoyed it. Hang on, let me think of it here. Pirate Latitudes. So Pirate Latitudes, Micro, and Dragon Teeth, which are 3 novels that have come out years after the author died, after Crichton passed away. but they were primarily, I think, 2 of them anyway, were books that were in his desk drawer, hadn't been finished, or had been finished but hadn't been, maybe edited or something. But essentially, they were complete novels. And one of them, I just looked it up. One of them was completed by another author. So, so you have people that have been dead for. I mean, Crichton died in the mid-90s. I seem to remember, mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006, around there. So, yeah, it's not uncommon that. I mean, what's his face? Christopher.
Pirate books. Captain in Calico, a posthumous pirate book by George MacDonald Fraser.
Really?
Loosely on the life of the pirate Rackham. Yeah, it's not bad. I wouldn't put it up there with with his best work, but it's all right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of pirate books, I mean, I really enjoyed. I actually went out. I didn't bother to see the film until a while after I read it, which was one of the Pirate of the Caribbean films. I think it was on Stranger Tides, and so I went to the book out of the library, and the book is better than the film. I mean, it's a Disneyfication.
It would be hard for it not to be.
Exactly, and it would be difficult to translate to that. So anyway, quite good book. I liked it. There's also actually, who wrote On Stranger Tides? Was that oh Lord, COVID. It was a very decent, written by, not the movie. I don't care about the movie. Tim Powers. Tim Powers is a decent author that writes some really cool things. If you've ever read Tim Powers, I highly recommend it. So yeah, I think that, and he's still alive. So love you, Tim Powers. Write more stuff. How did I get talking about pirate books? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I blame Locke.
Yeah, I don't know. Pirate books. I think, we were talking about posthumous publications, and there are more than a few authors that have a pirate book or two. Who has attempted to write a book hasn't at some point thought,
Shh, hang on. Shh, Alan's fallen asleep. You were like this. I couldn't see your eyes, and I thought, oh God, he's fallen asleep.
I'm like, like I'm driving, and I have my phone in my. I'm like.
Who are you texting, Alan? Who are you texting? Huh?
I was checking to make sure that the studio audience was still up.
Oh yeah, it's still there. Anyway, Locke, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no, I there's got to be a lot of appeal in writing pirate books. Actually, the first book I ever read as a kid was Treasure Island.
Yeah. I think that was in like the reading structure for like grade 2 or 3 or something. It was. I love that book. I think I reread it probably about 10 years ago again. After I went off on a kick of reading books from my childhood, so I read that. I read a bunch of other Stevenson stuff. Then I read Mark Twain, a bunch of Mark Twain books. And who knew that there are actually 3 Huckleberry Finn adventures? Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer have their adventures, of course, in the books that are well known. But the one that's not so well known is When They Go to Africa, which I think is just called Huck and Finn in Africa. And I have not been brave enough to read that one. So it's actually kind of, you have to hunt for it, because I suspect there's probably some racial things going on in it that are not as favorable, of course.
The whole thing is probably racial.
It's like Shaft goes to Africa, right? But not. I don't know.
So Jane, what's the first book you remember reading that was kind of, in quotes, a grown-up book?
Oh, really?
Or the first
that's a good question. The book that actually left an impact on me, surprisingly, was I was in grade 8, I think, and I'd never read Piers Anthony before, and I read the book Cruel Lie, which is a Xanth novel, and it's about it's been such a long time, but I have the memories I have of reading the book are, the character basically can't die, and he constantly is getting murdered and roasted by. I think there's a scene where he gets liquefied by a dragon, and like the dragon breathes fire on him and he gets scorched to nothing, and then he has to go through the process of like rebuilding, and it's quite painful.
Oh jeez.
I mean, the thing is, there's tons of other books that I can remember reading before that, but I wouldn't consider them to be adult books. I don't really consider Piers Anthony to be necessarily an adult book either, but there's only so many books that really leave an impact on your mind when it's sort of the first of something, right? I'd read The Hobbit at that point. I'd read some of Lord of the Rings. I don't think I quite understood it because I was 11, 12, somewhere in there. But I think that would be, unfortunately or fortunately, that would be the first book that I kind of, it woke me up to. There's so many other things, so many other authors that I could read. So,
that's fair. Everybody's got to do a bit of Xanth.
What about you? What's like the first book that you kind of remember reading that was an adult book?
Yeah. Well, I don't know why, but the book that comes to mind is, believe it or not, actually
Green Eggs and Ham, right?
Alice. Yeah, that was the first adult that I read. Yeah, absolutely.
I was 24 when I first read that book, and mind was blown.
Oh man, I could not get over it. Carried that thing with me for minutes.
And then I picked up Fox in Socks, and oh my god!
It just never stopped.
Sorry, what was? Yeah, sorry. What was the
Alistair MacLean, actually. Alistair MacLean.
Oh, really?
Yeah, kind of a random. And honestly, it's not like I'm a Monster fan now, and I haven't read heaps of the man's work, but I remember reading a little bit of his stuff when I was younger, and that's the one that comes to mind for me when I was younger. One of the sort of, again, in quotes, grown-up books that I started getting into sort of on my own, if you will.
What about you, Locke? What was sort of the first thing you got blown away with?
Oh, good question. So after Treasure Island, I read Lord of the Rings. Following that, I think I got into. After that, I sort of dribs and drabs of this and that. But I like my mother's idea of bedtime story was reading War and Peace. So
I could see her torturing you that way. All right, boy.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it was William Gibson.
Yeah.
William Gibson.
No way.
I read Count Zero right when it was released. I read that before I read Neuromancer. After I read Count Zero, I went back and read Neuromancer. But that was a fresh release when I read it, and I was excited by it. That was cool.
It's something that actually excited me. It just popped into my mind is that last year I was charting out what things I wanted to read this year, because I like to track the things I read, because half the time I forget what the hell I read. But I started reading I'm actually reading the Agatha Christie books in their publication order, and sort of following all of the Perrault and then Marple and all those characters in the order that they were adventuring. And the very first book that that was published was basically the character is at the end of his life, and he sits down in front of a fire and says, "I'm going to tell you my life story," and that's kind of where these novels start. And I'm hoping that that she was able to finish it before she died. Like, did Christie get to the point where she's like, same fire at the very end of the last novel I'm going to write, and yeah, so there's my life story. Oh my God, I'm being murdered, or something like that, right? Like,
there's an Agatha Christie quote that I think is advice to live by. God says, "Do what you want and pay the price."
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm getting naked right now online. Congratulations, everyone watching. You're about to have a show comedy, but a show nonetheless. Alan, what about you? Books that you read as a kid, what blew you away the first time?
Well, you know what? So I'm going to sound really dumb compared to you guys here. I'm not really all that well read. I always viewed reading books as like eating Brussels sprouts. I hated it. Books were the kinds of things that my English teacher would make me read, and I hated doing it. I just waited for the movie. But there were some books that I remember one summer. I don't know who wrote it, but it stuck out to me. I read a book called Tony and Me. It was about and it's not really an adult book, I guess. It's more of like a more young adult fiction kind of thing. And it was about a kid who had just moved to town, and he befriended another kid, and the other kid was, I don't know, stole some stuff or whatever and had to go to juvenile hall, and they were friends, and I don't know, something like that. Anyway, it really stuck with me, and it was a pretty good book. Aside from that, I got into some Isaac Asimov, which was, enjoyable. Nothing like, aside from 2001, nothing really sticks out to me. There was a book that I read called A Fall of Moondust. That was okay, but not as good as 2001. Speaking of which, I watched them soon after I read 2001. I watched the movie. Oh my God, what a snore fest! It made Star Trek: The Motion Picture look like top-notch movie. I still don't understand it. I mean,
look, if you find that a little slow, try the original Russian Solaris.
Oh God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All 3 hours of it.
Holy.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Sounds like if you have trouble sleeping, just pop this baby and you're good to go.
Well, I mean, for reading, though, is that I guess I just like reading a lot. And I started tracking a few years ago. I started actually tracking what I was reading. And one of the books that kind of didn't wow me, but it was interesting and decently written. And the only reason I knew about it is it got changed into a film, or got made into a film. And it's called The Sisters Brothers, which is a Western about these two very kind of, not necessarily the brightest. It's actually, I think, I haven't read a whole lot about it. I've just read the book. I haven't read much about it, about the author or what the author was trying to go for. But for me, it's a kind of a retelling of Mice and Men, and just in a Western. It's kind of these two brothers running around who are like hired guns and getting into all kinds of weird adventures and stuff, and I highly recommend it. I'm actually looking at my list right now, and I'm kind of like going, "Holy crap! How much have I actually read?" Like
something that I did probably about, I want to say about 20 years ago. I started to feel a little bit inadequate as far as my reading history goes, and I started buying classic literature books in the intention of actually reading them. I wanted to have them on display so people would think I'm smarter than I am. I never read one. So a lot of them I don't have anymore. I got rid of them, but yeah.
I actually
a lot of those classics are classics for a reason. As long as we're talking, something sort of pre 1900, like most of that stuff, if it became famous, it wasn't because somebody was Facebooking the shit out of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I totally recommend Tom Jones is a great read. It's a hell of a lark. What else is good? Like there's just a ton of stuff out there that if I mean, Moby Dick admittedly is a little slow. 19th century stuff isn't really my cup of tea, but you're sort of your your Three Musketeers,
Right.
Those are good larks. They're good adventure stories, and they're fun to read. I mean, they didn't become famous just because they were arduous, pretentious waffle, which is sort of where the Brontes come in. But
right, I got the a big thick book, which is the complete works of William Shakespeare, and I remember getting myself a beer one time. This is probably 20 years ago. Getting myself a beer, sitting down in a chair. I opened up the book. I read the first page, and I closed the book. And I've never.
That's funny,
Alan.
Actually,
nobody's gonna call you on that.
I challenge you. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Dave.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that there's probably two books that you might want to read, because they're one of them is quite different from the film, and one of them has parts that don't exist in the film and have been replaced with other things. But The Princess Bride and The Neverending Story, like the actual novel, The Neverending Story.
Oh, okay.
The movie that we grew up with, back in 84 or so, the novel is only the the movie is only the first third of the book. It ends, and then there's all this other stuff going on later on.
Shane, am I right in thinking that there are scenes from that and the Neverending Story 2 that are shot in Vancouver?
The Neverending Story, the bookends, like the beginning and the end, were shot here.
Yeah.
I don't know why, to be honest, because the rest of it was shot in Germany. But they chose to shoot some of that stuff here. I don't know if they changed partway through. They're like, we have to have a starting and an ending where there's kids in the real world. I don't know.
So I have a question.
I do dig seeing some old school Vancouver now and then.
It's really kind of hilarious. The kid that was in that film, he did a bunch of films in the up till sort of the late 80s, and then he got out of acting and went to university, and he is now a foremost authority on old development methods of film. We're talking like shaken silver into liquid and like that kind of stuff, and he's like heavy into that. Because I looked him up a couple years ago after that was one of the things I read the Neverending Story. I'm like, holy shit, this is actually really different. Because I'd never read it before, and then I looked up the actor. I'm like, what's that kid? The kid with the screaming out his mother's name in the rain. What the hell was that? And yeah, he's like this big, kooky dude who's got like a beard out to here now and like long hair, and he looks like Doc Brown before he hit puberty or something. It's
isn't that how you wanted him to turn out?
To be honest, you kind of look at this clean-cut kid that had the same haircut in like 5 different movies. It could have been, one of those actors that, continued their career but never really quite made it. They made it as a kid, became an adult, and that was kind of it. But it seems to me he probably saw the writing on the wall and he was like, yeah, that's it, I'm going back to school, and now I'm going to become a crazy-looking dude who teaches at, Berkeley doing film development or something. But it is pretty it's kind of awesome. So
that's some amazing stuff too. That old because there's a whack of old development processes, right? And
yeah,
funky as hell.
I actually tried to get his book out of the library, to do an interlibrary loan, but I couldn't get it. Because they frown on sending books over the border or something. I don't know. You're supposed to be able to, but apparently not for his. But that's basically what I was saying. I challenge you to read those 2 novels because The Princess Bride is a lot of it's in the film, and but there's a whole bunch that's not. And the Neverending Story, man, is completely out of there.
So let me ask you, the Princess Bride novel. So in the it starts off with Columbo coming in, and he's reading a story to, like, the Princess Bride to, Fred Savage, and is that in the Princess Bride book?
I don't remember. I think it is, but I don't recall. The one thing that's been polluted by,
if it was just the novel about Wesley and Buttercup and
I don't remember, because it's been such a long time since I even though I've read it and I at the time was recognizing what was different, the movie is so deeply ingrained that I kind of would I'd sit here going, I'm pretty sure it was, but then in reality I'm like, I have no idea. But I have a copy of it. I'll have to go look. Dave, you were going to tell us about your book selection.
Actually, no. I was going to ask you guys a question. Kind of carrying on with Alan's idea here. So, what is a book that you just got to the point where you said, "Fuck it, I cannot read this thing anymore"? Because I've actually got one.
Oh,
I try not to do this because I'm kind of I have this idea in my head, right or wrong, more wrong than anything else, that if I start something book-wise, I gotta finish it.
Okay.
Damn the book.
I think Alan's already outed himself with his Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so but what about you two? I'm curious about you, Lachlan and Shane.
Well, I can actually tell you.
Has there been anything that's actually hit that note for you?
It was
where
just recently.
You have literally stopped. You dropped the book because you just said, "Fuck it, I cannot read another." Or it just faded away because you were just like, "I got other things interesting."
It's a book that I did end up finishing it. But it took me a while, because it annoyed me, a lot, because it's like one of those things where like, oh, you totally have to read this because it's supposed to be all that in a bag of chips, and I'm like, no, it sucks balls. But let me find it here. It's in my list. Where is it? Here we go. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It's a book that I read early last year, but I've been trying to read it for like a year, and there was something about now. Let me make sure to be clear. This book is good, but the author, the way that they wrote, it just irked me every so often. I would just be like, and I'd have to put it down because there was just something about the structure of sentences that just rubbed me the wrong way. A lot of books that have really bad dialogue really piss me off. I think the best dialogue out there is, I would say it's probably right now anyway, a contemporary author is Stephen King. He writes dialogue in a way that I hear it in my head, or how I imagine people talk. He doesn't get it right every single time, of course, but there are many writers that I've read that when the characters speak, it's like, no one talks like that. What? No, actually, it's really funny. There's an ad every so often that I see. It's like one of those master classes by, a bunch of famous authors, and one of them is who wrote the West Wing. It doesn't matter. Anyway, if you know TV writers, you'll know who I'm talking about. But his ad starts with, "Nobody ever walks into a room and starts a sentence with 'damn it.'" Like you've probably seen this ad.
That's his trailer for his
class, yeah. Class. And that's one of the things.
Unfortunately, I don't remember the fellas. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's like one of my pet peeves is when you read dialogue and you've never heard it structured that way ever. Sometimes you'll catch it the first time and go, oh, but then you'll realize that the author's actually writing for that character and that's how the character speaks. Like, oh, well, that's okay. Because now I know when that character speaks, that's their lilt, that's the word choice they use, and it indicates something about the character. But when you have books that are completely, Baldacci is pissing me off a lot. His books are, they are right now are I don't want to read this because I don't like the way the guy writes, but the tales he's telling, I can listen to them and it just is a completely, I go off and I don't have to think about anything else. They're engrossing enough where I can ignore them but enjoy them. And the sad reality is I've read, I think, 9 or 10 of his books in the last 12 months. Like, they're really fast reads. They're easy to go through, and they're all about military character this, military character that. Right now, the one I'm reading is Memory Man, which is like this guy has a brain injury. He was a police officer, and he got shot in the head, and then suddenly he becomes like a savant where he knows everything and remembers everything. But he's attacking the character from the point of the realities of what that actually means. The character is quietly torturing himself all the time because he's trying not to remember stuff. And his brain's like, remember that time when you stuck your penis in that public fleshlight? Which I saw yesterday. I was on Reddit or something, and I saw this picture. It was a campground or something. It had this sign on the top of it that said public fleshlight, and there was a fleshlight strapped to this thing ready for service. So yeah, I'm sure it was a joke because I can't imagine anyone using it. But pick that and put that image in your head, man. I mean, that was I was like one of those things. You're just kind of like ignoring stuff, kind of flipping through whatever's going on the internet, and then you're like, what the hell? You scroll back, you're like, really? And you click on it, and you're like, oh god, oh yeah, I guess that's fun. As advertised.
But then you've got some woman going in Jacksonville, Florida.
So I've battled my way through trash. I'll pick up books called Map of Bones or Bone of Maps or Key of Bone of Maps, and I'll read it all the way through. I don't remember the names. I have no idea what happened, but I'll read the whole thing. I've also battled my way through literature that I don't like Margaret Lawrence. I've read The Stone Angel cover to cover, and God, that was painful, but I did it. When a woman is that hell bent on perseverance, you have to persevere through it just to show that you can beat her. But
I have the same reaction to several books. Yeah.
What I have never been able to make it all the way through, and I have taken English courses where I had to read Michael Ondaatje, and I just pretended I read it and used a lot of adjectives in class and got away with it. God, I hate Michael Ondaatje's writing.
In second year, the first book I had to read in second year was what was the one that got made into a big, huge movie thing?
English
Patient. And yeah. I had to, and I pained my way through it, and I hated it. And I was like, why are Canadian authors like this? What is wrong with us? Why is this considered high literature? Why can't, I think, to be honest, I think authors should write garbage, trashy books that are written for the populace. And once they've done that, then every few books write your masterpiece, right? Write the masterpiece. Sorry?
Then they get to graduate?
Well, no. Like
Still caught the first one.
The film director John Sayles, I think, says it the best, and I'm gonna blast and blow up his quote, but his entire career is I write a bunch of crap that I hate so that I can do the movies that I want to make, and I have to write like 3 scripts to make enough money to fund my own film. And the films that he makes are I like them a lot. So, you know, if you've never seen the film Matawan, I highly recommend it. It is about a company town in, I think, in the 30s or the 40s. I think it's the 30s. Actually, maybe the 20s. But anyway, basically, it's like a company town is you are basically a slave. You work for the coal mine or whatever it is, and you can only spend the money you make at the company store, which is owned by your employer. The rent you pay for the home that you rent is owned by the employer. So yeah, it's I'd never known about that kind of situation ever, but yeah, it's a really good film. I enjoyed it, and also not to mention, it stars James Earl Jones. So there you go. So if you want to hear Darth Vader talking about coal mining, that's your film. But yeah, and I like this is why I'm reading this stuff with this David Baldacci writer, because he's prolific. He's like Piers Anthony in that way, where he writes 3-4 books for each series that he's created. And I burned through I think 2 series in a month because they were just fast reads. He didn't have to concentrate. You still got the information, and I also was switching in between those books. I think last year I read the 3 novels by his name Ransom Riggs or Riggs Ransom, who wrote the Peculiar Children novels, which I think one of them got turned into a movie a few years back, because I wanted something easy to read as well. So, and those are relatively simple. But then I made the mistake, I think in November or so, or maybe earlier last year. But anyway, I read The Goldfinch, which I went into completely blind. I had heard it had been made into a movie with what's her face from Pretty Woman, that actress that I cannot remember. Anyway, she was in it, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll read the book first. And the book is about a kid who is, I think he's autistic. I think I don't think they said the word, but he had a mental sort of thing going on. And he goes to the Met in New York with his mother, and somebody bombs the museum. And it's a very interesting tale. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, I'm glad. I just like reading. What can I say? Like right now, I'm reading 2 books. I'm reading The Memory Man, the Baldacci one, and I'm also reading a book that I just got a couple days ago called Half Breed, which is a native First Nations author whose name escapes me, but about his experience in Canada growing up. So I think that would be cool. But yeah, I don't know. There's tons of stuff, and I throw in Stephen King here and there, of course, because why not? Let's all get naked. We've been streaming for like an hour or more.
Oh my god.
Yeah, hour and 10. So right. I think it's time to go to bed, boys. It's especially for you, Locke. Yeah. It is a school night, so. So
for being willing to stay up, I gotta say.
Hey, hardcore, man. But of course, thank you all for watching. We had a bunch of people watching today. I don't know why, but hey, thanks for coming out and hanging out. But also, don't forget to tell people about what we're doing, because we do it for fun, and more people the merrier. And also represent Locke for the East Coast. Dave represent because Dave. But we also have been doing a bit of streaming on the weekends, on Saturdays, earlier in the day, for those who like so Locke can actually stay up and not turn around and go, I need to go to bed, I'm gonna die. So yeah. So as always, Alan, take us out.